We live in a world that is obsessed with quick fixes. There is an app for just about everything. Want to get fit? Try Couch to 5K. 9 weeks and you'll be running a 5-kilometre race. Want to lose weight? There's a 30-day shred. Imagine going from this to buff in 30 days. Oh, if I could believe that, I'd be on very, very quickly. Do you want to learn a new language? Do you know it's only going to take you 10 minutes a day? I don't think that's true, by the way. It can help you get there, but you're not going to have the mastery of the language, are you? Now, some of these things are genuinely helpful. Couch to 5K does get you moving. It is something that can get you to the point where you can participate in a 5K run. I wouldn't call it racing at that point, though. You want to lose weight? Getting on a 30-day shred program will get you going, but it's not going to be the entire picture. And I'm telling you, you're going to bounce back pretty quickly if you don't make the changes that need to happen. Learning a language, 10 minutes a day is a good start, but it's not going to give you mastery. And in fact, you probably need to go and spend time in country to gain mastery of any language that you learn, because there's nuances and there's dialects that you don't pick up just from simply learning something on an app. So all of these things can be genuinely helpful, but most of them simply want to sell us on an idea that change is quick, that results are instant, and that the journey is short. They're all appealing thoughts, but they don't match reality. And we don't just stop with quick fixes in everyday life, do we? We try to import them into our journeying with Jesus too. A quick Google will show you that there are apps and programs. 30 days to grow your faith. Try this 7 days of fasting and prayer for real spiritual breakthrough. Please hear me. I want to encourage you to grow your faith. I want to encourage you to discipleship. I want to encourage you to pray and fast. I think spiritual breakthrough is a great thing, but we can't take shortcuts. Shortcuts are not what Jesus puts before us. A quick trip to most Christian book outlets would give us a plethora of suggested resources, but discipleship, the journey of following Jesus, is a long one and often a slow one. The life of faith is not a 30-day sprint. It's a long walk. In fact, Eugene Peterson, if you've ever seen the Message, which is a paraphrase of the Bible to try and explain it in more simplified language, not a translation, but a paraphrase, Eugene Peterson, who wrote that, he describes the life of faith as a long obedience in the same direction. A long obedience in the same direction. I love that statement. Our passage in Isaiah 35 today gives us a stunning picture of that long walk. A highway of holiness, stretching through the wilderness, where God's people journey home to everlasting joy. And that's our theme today as we gather together. Persevering to joy. Not quick fixes, not shortcuts, but the steady, sure walk of faith on the highway that God himself has built that leads us to that place of eternal joy with him. Isaiah begins with hope for the barren places. He says, the desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. It seems like an oft-repeated refrain by me, but it's something we absolutely have to get our heads and hearts around. God's promise is not that life will always feel lush and easy. Put your hand up for me if your life has always been lush and easy. Thank you, Levi. There's always one, and yours is probably pretty... At your age, that's a great thing to be. I love it. But most of us who have experienced any sort of life, any sort of experience in the world, relationships, families, workplaces, just the day-to-day grind of getting out of bed. Life does not always feel lush and plentiful. But God's promise is not that it will feel that way. His promise is that the dry places won't last forever. That the experience of dryness, that the experience of the desert, that the places where the flowers don't bloom isn't continuing forever. It comes to an end. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. The desert and the parched land will be glad. The wasteland will sing. It's vital for us to hear that as God's people, because so often perseverance feels like walking through desert land. When it gets hard, when things don't work out the way we expected them to, when conflicts happen, when relationships break down, when we sin and we fall short of the glory of God and we suffer the consequences of it, it can feel like a dry and dead place. But the dry places won't last forever. Days that feel dry, prayers that feel unanswered, work that feels fruitless, Isaiah says, look again. Look again. The deserts will blossom. The wildflowers will bloom. God will bring life to this. In one of the readings that we had earlier from 2 Timothy, Paul puts it this way, nearing the end of his life. I have fought the good fight, I have finished the race, I have kept the faith. Now there is in store for me the crown of righteousness. I have fought the good fight. Now, we might be tempted to think Paul's being a bit of a drama queen. I have fought the good fight. Oh, come on, Paul. Can't have been that difficult for you, can it? Well, let's hear Paul's own words of what his life was. 2 Corinthians 11 tells us, 5 times I received, this is just because of following Jesus, by the way. This is the bit after he followed Jesus. This is what his life looks like. 5 times I received from the Jews the 40 lashes minus 1. 3 times I was beaten with rods. Once I was pelted with stones. 3 times I was shipwrecked. I spent a night and a day in the open sea. I've been constantly on the move. I've been in danger from rivers, in danger from bandits, in danger from my fellow Jews, in danger from the Gentiles. I have laboured and toiled and often gone without sleep. I've known hunger and thirst and have often gone without food. I have been cold. I have been naked. Pretty hard life. Not the greatest experience of a missionary life, I would suggest. Not the sales pitch you want to give to people. Hey, give your life to Jesus. Go and preach the gospel to people who haven't heard it yet. You could have this sort of experience. Don't see too many people rushing to sign up for that, do you? No, but that's the fight Paul had. That's the race that he ran. You can't tell me that that doesn't feel like a long run of perseverance in a dry place. Yet what Paul trusted was that the desert would not have the last word. The desert is not where it would end. He trusted that God's promise of life and righteousness would be fulfilled. He trusted that God's promise of life and righteousness was stronger than every beating, every prison cell, every shipwreck, every hardship. The promise of life that was set before Paul was such that he said, I will persevere. I will fix my eyes on the joy set before me, and I will run the race. Friends, God knows that perseverance is hard. He knows that knees buckle and hands tremble. He knows that hearts grow fearful. Without putting too fine a point on it, it feels more and more that way the older we get, doesn't it? It's harder to get out of bed. It's harder to endure when our bodies ache and our energy runs thin. It's harder to keep up with change. It's harder to get out of bed even some mornings. And sometimes it feels just as hard to persevere in faith. How long, O Lord, is a refrain in the New Testament, is it not? The saints and the martyrs before the throne in Revelation cry out, "How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord? How long, O Lord?" There is a desire to see the joy fulfilled, to see God's kingdom fully realized, to see all of the promises come to bear. And in the meantime, we get old. We get frail. Our bodies fail. Our spirit feels weak. Psalm 90 says our days may come to 70 years or 80 if our strength endures. Some of you've got some remarkable strength, just so you know. Yet the best of them are but trouble and sorrow, for they quickly pass. Even the Psalms pointed us to the fact that 80 years of hardship is a quick passing compared to what is to come, compared to what God has in store for his people. That's why Isaiah turns to the people on the road and says, "Strengthen the feeble hands. Steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong. Do not fear. Your God will come. Your God will save you." Jesus echoes this in Matthew 11. "Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest." You don't need rest unless you are burdened. You don't need Jesus to help you carry a load unless you have one in the first place. That is what Jesus is saying to his people. Perseverance isn't about dragging ourselves along in our own strength and our own failing strength. It's about leaning into his. It's not about having the load removed so that we don't carry it. It's carrying it in the strength that he gives to us. Leaning into him, letting him set the pace, letting him carry the load, letting him renew our hearts and restore us with his rest, that we might have the life that we need. Isaiah unveils for us the heart of the vision. The great highway, he calls it, the highway of holiness. A highway will be there. It will be called the way of holiness. It will be for those who walk on that way. Think about the kinds of roads that we travel on. We have rutted farm tracks. They're narrow and bumpy and uncertain. You're never quite sure you're going to make it. If you drive too quick, your car's going to bottom out. Then you have the corrugated gravel roads, the kind that shake every bolt in your car loose and rattle your teeth until you can hardly think. Then you've got your potted country highways where you're constantly dodging holes, hoping to avoid damage, watching the edges crumble away and hoping against hope that you don't end up with a B-double or a family pulling a caravan either in front or coming towards you. Then we've got our beautiful modern national highways, don't we? Wide and smooth, clearly marked, solid foundations, a direct path that make the journey so much easier. Well, in theory anyway. Anyone who's driven in Tassie knows our highways don't always work that way. They're forever being patched and fixed. Apparently our foundations aren't as strong as we thought they were. Of course, that means roadworks which test our patience and also serve to remind us that sometimes the long wait and the detour are part of the journey, but I digress. Isaiah says ultimately what God is building for his people isn't a goat track, isn't a corrugated road, isn't a narrow country lane, isn't a road that you will ever struggle to travel on. It is going to be straight. It is going to be, it's going to be a highway, not a rough track, not a gravel strength, a secure, clear, and direct path that God himself has laid before us. This is what God has laid before his people. Journey on this highway. Follow this road. Because this highway leads to the important place. It leads to the finish line. And that finish line is joy. Not we will feel joyful that we reach the finish line. but the finish line itself is joy. Pure and unbounded, complete and free. As Isaiah puts it, the redeemed will return, gladness and joy will overtake them, and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Friends, this talks about the people coming back from captivity, being restored to Israel. This talks about pointing people to the Messiah who would save and rescue and redeem and construct the highway for God's people to walk on. The narrow way that leads through him. Narrow not meaning dangerous road, narrow meaning the entrance is clear. There's not multiple entrances. It's one. It's through him. He is the one who constructs it. But the finish line, that finish line of joy, is one for us to set our eyes on, to persevere through as we walk this highway of holiness, as we pursue what God puts in front of us, as we trust in the Lord Jesus to direct our footsteps and ensure that we do not fail. He sets before us joy. Unbounded joy. For some of us, life feels barren in the slow weariness of old age. Our body doesn't do what it used to. Simple tasks take longer. Aches and pains are constant companions. For others, it's an experience of repeated and chronic illness. Doctor's appointments, treatments, medications that bring little relief. For some, it's grief. The loss of loved ones. The empty chair at the table. The loved one who we will no longer have the opportunity to speak to, the one who is no longer here, the silence that replaces their laughter. In those barren places, it is so easy to believe that nothing will ever grow again. Yet Isaiah proclaims to us, Isaiah proclaims to you, the desert and the parched land will be glad. The wilderness will rejoice and blossom. God will bring beauty where we only see dust. He will cause new shoots of hope to rise, even out of the dry ground of loss and decline. Fix your eyes on him. Persevere to joy. Some of us feel weak, not just physical frailty, but the emotional weakness of relationships that break down, a marriage strained, a friendship lost, a family rift that seems beyond repair. Some of us feel spiritually weak, prayers that feel empty, faith that feels thin, hearts that are tired of waiting for God to act. Some of us are weak in our wills. We fall back into old habits. We fail again and again and again where we've promised we'd do better. We feel like we've let God down. Isaiah's word is for us. Strengthen the feeble hands. Steady the knees that give way. Say to those with fearful hearts, be strong. Do not fear, your God will come. We need to speak that life to one another. When we know people who are feeling weak for whatever reason, we need to bring that life to one another. Let me walk with you. Strengthen your hands. Your God has not abandoned you. Your God will come. Trust him. Be strong and do not fear. The promise is not that we won't feel weak, but that God will meet us in it. His strength, Paul writes, is made perfect in weakness. His spirit steadies trembling knees, and his presence gives courage when our hearts quake. Persevere. keep trusting. Your God will come. Some of us feel lost, maybe because of our circumstances. Sudden change, an uncertain future, a job that ends, a child who walks away from the faith, a crisis that upends our plans. Other times we get lost in our own choices. We took a wrong turn. We wandered. We feel spiritually disoriented. And now we don't know how to find our way back. Jesus is the way back. The one whose arms spread on that cross. The one who has dealt with all of the sin issue that would separate you from God. The one who unites you in him by his Spirit and draws you into relationship with the Father through him. He is the way back. He has laid the foundation of the highway. He has walked it before you. Persevere. 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 There is a road. There is a highway. It is not hidden. It is not broken. It is not beyond us. God himself has marked it out and it leads home. No matter how lost you feel, there is a way. And that way is Jesus. You are not beyond his path. Walk it. Walk it. Day by day, step by step, a long walk of obedience in the same direction. So what kind of perseverance are we running on, church? Are we wanting a quick fix, a spiritual 30-day shred? Are we hoping that God will snap his fingers and fix all of our problems? It'd make life easier, let's be honest. Or are we going to walk the long road with our eyes fixed on the promises that God has set before us? Paul says, I finished the race. You can too. Jesus says, come to me. I will help you. I will help carry your burden. I will give you rest. And Isaiah reminds us, lift your eyes. The desert will bloom. This highway leads to joy. So let us keep walking, one step after another. Perseverance is not glamorous, but it is glorious. The wilderness will blossom. We who are weary will be renewed. The highway will bring us home. And one day, as God promises through Isaiah, everlasting joy will crown our heads and sorrow and sighing will flee away. Let us persevere with long obedience because the God who promised is faithful and he will continue to be faithful to you, to me, to us, as we pursue him.